Hi, it's Polly with Get Busy Thriving. I'm here in my office and I'm reading an email that came from an eating disorder client, and I'll maintain confidentiality, but I want to share some of the essence of it because if there is so much of this that was a part of my life and is a part of just the process and what people go through, that I think by sharing it, you'll hear yourself in this story and then find some solutions, find some way out of this, find some alternatives. So I'm just going to read you some of what she wrote. She said, I had 2 relapses in the past week. It's been very stressful in my business. I've been overwhelmed with these feelings, and it felt like as if the only sense of relief was to binge. I only did it once and justified it by saying that it's okay, I'm not bulimic, it's just a moment and we can move on, right? She said, however, she had a race she ran this weekend. After the race, what did she say? Her super busy day at work, managing my team. I was exhausted all day long. Along with that, this hunger. I had all my healthy foods that I packed and ate all day, but I was tired. I kept getting these unusual binging thoughts all day, and I didn't follow through on any of it because she's been doing some other work that I've been teaching her. But she said when I got home, she had a healthy stir fry with her partner, and then she ate way too much, felt so uncomfortable, and then purged. And so very classic things going on here, right? So I'm just going to try and break some of this down and give you what I'm seeing. So I have some notes here. So first is the feeling of discomfort after eating, right? So for many of us, the habit looks like eat to fullness, sometimes extreme fullness, right? And that becomes so uncomfortable, we purge, right? So that, boom, 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 and then we feel the relief, right? Physical relief, emotional relief maybe, right? But most times we're avoiding something. Well, in this case, it was like maybe she was tired, maybe there's some things going on, maybe she hadn't been nurturing herself and taking good enough care for herself, tired, maybe wasn't even eating enough. So by the time she got to this meal, there was a lot of hunger, and then it pushed her to eat too much. That's okay. Sometimes people overeat. Like, it's okay. So the moment you want to break, the pattern that you want to break there is in those moments when you feel the discomfort. The typical pattern loop that you run is eat too much. Most oftentimes it's intentional, right? Like we're doing, and let's say not intentional always, but like we're binging, right? We get to that point of fullness, or time-wise we got to go or something, right? You get to that state of fullness, purge, feel some relief, shame, probably go back and do it again. But it's that moment of fullness that's sitting with it, right? And in that moment, it didn't sound like she had these overwhelming urges to binge/purge. It was the fullness that created the trigger in her brain. Oh, this is, I go and purge after this. Like it's just like a, Pavlov's dog. If the bell rings, boom, purge, right? So just know that that's what you've created. That's the conditioning. That's the environment that you've set up, right? That's the habit that you've laid in place. Just like getting up in the morning, you wake up, maybe go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, start your day, whatever. Like, it's the same thing. Like, I know it sounds very simplified, and I'm not making light of this. I'm just saying this is a habit. This is how it gets created. We condition it. We do it over and over again. Waking up, going to the bathroom, it's like you almost don't have to think about it, right? So the trigger for the over fullness creates the trigger for the purge, right? So just know that that's what's ingrained. That's what's been conditioned over time, right? Possibly over decades, right? So just know that you're normal, and that's okay, and that's something that you break, right? So it's interrupting that pattern. So it's giving the brain in that moment of over fullness another path, right? Because for the brain, it thinks it's a winning strategy for you. You've been doing it so long, it thinks, oh, okay, this is success. When I can purge, then I feel relief. Okay, so that's what I need to do. It forgets somehow about all the shame and all the bad things that you feel for days and weeks afterward. But in that moment, all it can think about is, oh, instant relief comes from a purge. So you have to condition it so that it doesn't, that's not the out. That door is closed. It's like, oh. So learning how to sit with the discomfort of overfullness, right? And I don't mean intentionally overeating, 5 times as much food and then sitting with it. That's insanity making. But when you can condition yourself and be in the state of consciousness and choice and go, oh, my brain just reminded me of my old pattern. But you know what? If I thought about it a little bit longer, I know where this road goes. And the long-term effect of the quick relief of a physical symptom that I'm having has way more emotional pain and suffering and self-loathing and all sorts of things that come after that it somehow forgets, right? So you have to add in, oh no, brain, that's way more painful going down that road than sitting with a little discomfort. And so what might show up in those moments of the discomfort also is the belief that some people have, like, oh, if I don't get rid of this, I'll get fat, right? Like that could be also conditioned, like overeating equals fatness, right? Well, one, overeating doesn't equal fatness, right? If you overeat, if you were to keep those calories in your body, yeah, but it's recognizing in that moment, this meal won't make me fat. Like, come up with a new thought, right? And telling a new story, because in all of this, and I teach this in Breakthrough to Binge Free, is all of this is laced in the story you're telling yourself moment to moment, right? Like, oh, look at all this great food, great, healthy food. Okay, I'm going to eat it. And then in that moment, listening for and paying attention for when you feel that over fullness, what's the story you tell yourself? Or the brain reminds you of, oh, it'd be so much easier to go relieve myself with purging, right? Well, and that's where that moment of choice is, like, is that true, right? Like, is that story really the story I want to adopt? Does it serve me, right? Is that really the answer? And it's not. And I'd rather sit, that I was just reminded the other day of the pain of discipline weighs ounces, the pain of regret weighs tons, right? So that going the route, the seemingly in the moment easy route of getting rid of it, feels like it weighs ounces, but it weighs tons because of the regret that you have that you did it. And so the pain of the discipline of going, okay, I overate, gotta sit with this. I made a mistake, I ate too fast, I wasn't eating consciously, whatever. Okay, people do that. It's not gonna make me fat. All of that story that you build around that empowers or disempowers you. It's a choice. So let's go on to a couple things. So one of the things she said here, and I didn't quite read it, I think, was she talked about herself as an addict. Oh, she says, I don't see it right now, but she had a moment where she said, oh, that's just my addict brain, or these addict patterns. And remember, how you label yourself is what you become, right? So if you call yourself an addict, it's okay to label the brain with an addictive pattern. It's like, okay, my brain has a conditioned and an addictive pattern for overeating, but I'm not that. Like, creating that little bit of distinction, that little bit of separation, way empowering versus saying I'm an addict, right? So I'll leave you with that. In here, she also talks about losing faith in herself. She says, I've been feeling really disappointed in myself lately and feeling a little hopelessness. Some days I feel strong and connected and even strong-willed, and other days are really challenging for me. And I don't mean this belittling, but I want to say that's life. Like, I don't know anyone that wakes up and maintains a level 12 life all day, every day, right? So don't beat yourself up for having those variations. That's life. That's like the beauty of life. We came here to experience all of that juicy variety, right? So it's not that you have to be strong-willed and connected and aligned and, I'm super magical and, blah, 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 and all this stuff all day, every day. It's like, no, right? Some days are really challenging, and that's okay, right? That's when you pick up your big girl pants and you put your warrior on and you remember who you really are, right? And self-kindness in that moment when you're not, and when you can't just muster it up. It's like, that's right, I don't have to warrior up today. I can be still kind to myself and know that I'm going to get through this. And not everybody has level 12 days every day, and I don't have to expect that of myself. So some days I do and some days I don't. Now, I think the thing I want to point out here is I've been feeling really disappointed in myself and feeling a little hopeless. So feelings are created from thought. So thought creates a feeling and biochemical experience in the body, and then we label it, right? And we tell ourselves a story. So and there's a lot more there, but so a thought happens. And a thought can happen, like the mind, your wicked inner critic mind can say something about you, to you, beat you up, you're not good enough, you're not taking good care of your business or yourself, or you didn't do this, or you didn't, whatever, right? And we can choose to believe it. And if we choose to believe it and add momentum to it, that's when that feeling of disappointment and hopelessness can build and build and build, right? We sort of stack the deck against ourselves. It's like we just like overwhelm can feel like if you tell your story about everything that you have to do in your life and you tell it to yourself so many times, you begin to believe like it's bigger than you, right? And so it's relating to it differently. And it all comes down to the story we tell ourselves about us and that thing, or the meaning we're giving to things, the story we tell ourselves about ourselves or that thing, right? I'm disappointed in myself. Okay, well, what did you say that made you feel that way? What did you say that made you feel disappointed? Well, this and this and this and this. Okay, well, that doesn't feel good. Number one, is it true, right? Because a lot of times it's coming from monkey mind, and that's inner critic, and she's not there to make you feel good, right? And so a lot of it actually isn't true. And then the other thing is, if it doesn't feel good, what's the opposite? What's wrong is always available. What's right? Like, okay, your brain can only focus on one thing. So are you going to focus on all this negativity and disempowering words, or are you going to choose to focus on these, right? And sometimes I get it in those days when you're having challenges. Let's say life's just coming at you a little more tougher than usual. Feeling for those better feeling thoughts can feel really distant. And it's not that we have to go for the 12 on the scale of positivity and appreciation and love and bliss, but if we can just move ourselves up, because progress is happiness, progress is fulfillment. So if we can just feel a little bit better, and that comes through self-compassion and self-kindness. So keep that in mind. And let's see, the last thing I want to leave you with, I guess I could talk about a little bit, feeling hopeless, right? So that's just stacking the decks against you, right? You look at your past and you say, well, I didn't do it here, and and like all the things that you don't think you're doing right, when there's all these things that are going right in your life, and you're looking at these things or these moments, right? We have a way of, when we're telling ourselves a bad story, to kind of spotlight and just like make those things bigger, and then it's like, I'm just hopeless, right? And it's like, oh, wait, your life is, you've got all this great stuff that you're up to. All these, if we took, the 100% of your life and we looked at it, it's like 90% of your life is fantastic. And you're focusing on the 10, the glass half full, half empty kind of idea. So I would say a couple of things. So the big arching message is get out ahead of it, right? And getting out ahead of it is, well, for the urges to binge, oftentimes that's either coming from, are you avoiding a feeling? So is that in that moment, is there a feeling I'm avoiding? Because a lot of times eating is an alternative to feeling. So it's like, okay, what am I possibly avoiding? So just look at that. Am I avoiding something? Am I avoiding feeling something, talking to someone, doing something uncomfortable? Because the comfort in food feels a lot more comfortable than the discomfort in your body, right? Which only lasts like 90 seconds, but sometimes we lose sight of that. Remember that the urge possibly is a reminder that I have old conditioning. Just like I get up in the morning and I have an urge from my bladder to go relieve myself. I have to go pee. It's like, okay, well, I overeat. I get to overfullness, or I have an urge to do something. It's just my body's reminder system. It's like, go relieve yourself. Go do that thing that you've been trained to do, that you've trained yourself in the area of binging and purging, that's the thing to do. So just know that, like, hey, that's just a signal. It's just a signal from your body, like, oh, hey, remember that habit that you've done for a long time? Just reminding you. And the other thing is, when you can check in with yourself and go, okay, so I've got this urge. Am I rested? Am I, because there's like the hard thing. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, right? Those are like classic ones. I said hard. It's halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And I would add to that thirsty. Am I hungry, thirsty, tired, or lonely? Those are pretty classic ones that seem the same in the body, that want you to reach out for food. So just kind of like check in with those. And if you're like, no, I'm not hungry. Urging usually isn't because of hunger, it's because of other things, right? Mental reminders or some physical biochemical ones. And then allowing it and observing it. So if you can be in a place where you're empowered enough, you've got enough water in you, you've got sufficient food in you. Maybe you need to work on the anger or the loneliness, right? That's two places where you can work on your story. So if all of those are okay and you still got this urge, it's like, okay, then you're in a good place to work on the urge itself in that moment, right? And disconnecting yourself from those mental chatters, because that's all it is. The mental chatter in your mind about the urge, the reminder, the reminding that your brain is doing, because it thinks you want to do that thing. That's what you've taught it for a long time. It's just going, hey, I'm just reminding you of that thing that might make you feel better. And then, look around and go, is there something I'm avoiding, a feeling? And if not, just go, okay, well then it's probably pretty harmless. It's just a thought. And it can have some biochemical, physical symptoms with it. I get it. Sometimes it can be strong if you don't catch it early enough and you don't start addressing it early enough. Then you just got to go, all right, well, I can wait this out. It's just a thought. It's not going to kill me. It's just a feeling. I've felt feelings. And when you're willing to sit in the discomfort of uncomfortableness, uncomfortable feelings, we have this thing that something happens to us when we're little and we have a traumatic event, or we have a painful experience, or we have, trauma beat upon us, like mentally, emotionally, or physically, that it's so hard to feel. Like we numb ourselves through food or avoiding, binging, purging, so we can check out of that. And when we can have the resilience and the state of presence to know that a feeling isn't going to kill us, it's probably there to tell us something. And so if we can sit through that feeling or sit through that urge, that mental chatter, and move through it, man, how you're going to feel on the other side of that, having gone a different road than the old pattern of, looks like this: binge, overeat, feel uncomfortable, purge to relieve it, momentary feeling of relief, and then, days, weeks, hours of shame and then self-loathing that probably drives you back into the momentum. Or, what I've talked about to this point, getting out in front of it, slowing the momentum, making sure you're not, overly hungry, angry, tired, lonely, those types of things. Recognizing where your state of mind is in the story you're telling yourself, and if you can kind of talk yourself off that ledge, how you will feel at the end of these two roads, the immediate benefit of sitting through any discomfort, of feeling discomfort, which feelings are like waves, they come in like 90 seconds, 60 seconds maybe, or the physical discomfort of maybe having overeaten a little bit. It's like, okay, well, I'll feel better tomorrow, right? And trusting your body can absorb that, and you won't logically feel hungry, soon after. How you'll feel after all of that will be so you'll be leaps and bounds. Like if you go this road, you go down, and if you go this road, you go up. It's like the difference is so great, and you know it because I know you've had experiences of both. It's like so great. It's like, man, why would I choose this? I'm not going to choose this. And it's reminding yourself in that moment of choice how different it's going to feel in the end, a day from now, 24 hours from now, 6 minutes from now. If I don't do that thing, live through it, go on with the rest of my life, so different. And then it keeps going. And, this is further into disempowerment. This is further into empowerment and living a life you love. I hope this has been helpful. If so, leave a comment, ask a question. I'd be happy to address it. And thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful to you. Enjoy.